You're losing the game, and you don't even know you're playing it. Your life is a match of chess, but not the kind played on polished tables, with wine and quiet confidence. Yours is waged in silence and shadows, with pieces you don't understand and choices driven more by fear than logic. And the worst part is, you don't know your identity on this board. The pawn, the queen, the observer, the king. And all the while, you're chasing the illusion of strength, intelligence, or charm, forgetting the most critical truth. Your mission is to endure. Your position is to live with purpose. Your duty is to defend what truly matters. Yet you keep moving like the wind lies in relentless motion, directionless, detached from self-awareness. Hear this. The king doesn't need to dash across the board to wield power. He only needs to remember who he is, but you've forgotten. Every day you wake up carrying the burden of proving your worth to everyone, trying to master the game when you haven't even tamed your own mind. Let me repeat it. You are the king. Not for being the strongest or fastest, but because everything collapses without you. And still, you've placed your self-worth in the hands of temporary pieces who vanish in a moment. Do you actually think success means being in control of everything, playing every side, holding every answer? That's not mastery. That's distraction. Real mastery is quiet. It begins in stillness, in restraint, in knowing not all bright squares matter. You've worn the mask of strength too long, thinking it made you untouchable. But tell me, how strong are you if your peace of mind shatters? How far can you rise if your true desires are still unknown? The real issue isn't a lack of achievement. It's a lack of direction. Because without clarity on what matters, anything can lure you away. Do you know what a masterful player does? He doesn't begin by watching the other side. He starts by knowing his king, his limits, his standing, his stakes. Because without self-awareness, you won't even know when the game is slipping away. And now comes the question you should have asked long ago. What are you guarding? Don't say your career, your status, your public image. That's illusion. That's vapor. What matters is what can't be seen. Your mental state, your emotional core, your values, your sense of meaning. That's your fortress. That's what must never break. Because once that collapses, all else is worthless. But you ignore it, mask it, bury it beneath shallow goals and hollow praise, pretending success is applause, not alignment. Pretending admiration brings peace. But here's the reality. The crowd can cheer while your soul disintegrates. What use is a brilliant queen if your king is crumbling beneath the weight? You've played like you're immune, like it doesn't hurt, like you're a rook moving without pause, but that's not you. You are the king, and the king moves deliberately. The king watches. The king shields himself. The king wins not by rushing, but by withstanding, by knowing when to advance and when to wait. Because the king who charges blindly falls. Do you understand now? Every time you betray your truth to fit in, it's like stepping your king into silent danger. Every time you elevate others' opinions over your own intuition, you're leaving your inner world exposed. Every time you choose the facade over your feelings, you're losing a vital part of yourself. And then still you wonder why peace evades you. It's not a mystery. You haven't built an inner fortress. You've raised walls for the outside world while neglecting the kingdom within. You've become obsessed with outer tactics, forgetting the simplest truth. The real battle is internal. You don't need to master the movements of others. You need to discover what you're willing to lose and what you never will. And that's where self-knowledge steps in. Because only one who knows themselves can build a strategy that won't shatter them midway. Only one who's rooted can defend the vital without confusing it for the trivial. Because when you don't know your value, you'll trade everything for nothing. And the worst part is, you'll do it smiling. How long will you continue sacrificing your truth for acceptance? How long will you dress your fear as ambition? How long will you keep mistaking noise for success? This isn't about winning at all costs. It's about holding firm when everything else falls. It's about preserving your essence, even as the world turns to dust. Because when the king falls, the game is lost. Let's be real. The most dangerous opponent isn't across the board. It's the one inside your unchecked thoughts, your misunderstood pain, your untended scars. The whisper that always interrupts you when you're just about to rise. That voice doesn't yell. It whispers, you're not ready. You'll mess up. Stay small. And you listen because it's familiar. It's been echoing so long, you think it's you, but it's not you. You're the one hearing it. Which means you can choose a different message. True power doesn't begin when you control others. It begins when you govern your own mind. When you silence fear and act with clarity, even while the world burns because the chaos never vanishes. What changes is your ability to move through it. And that resilience is born within. The world may cheer for the winners, but it reveres those who stay whole through the storm. Because success without peace is just noise without substance. A cheer for a crown that breaks you instead of lifting you. The real question is, do you want to triumph or endure without compromise? Because only the latter gives you real freedom. And no, this isn't about being unbreakable. It's about recognizing your fragility and guarding it with wisdom. It's about knowing that pain is real, but it doesn't have to own you. It's about building armor, not from ego, but from values, from purpose, from focus. Because when you're clear on what matters, you don't sell your soul at the first threat. And here's the paradox. The more you understand yourself, the less you need to explain. The stronger your foundation, the less the world's noise penetrates. The better you care for your king, the less the board shakes your peace. True strength isn't loud. It's still. It's that quiet confidence that doesn't demand attention. It's that silent presence that unsettles the restless. It's that calm gaze that says, I know my center and I won't be moved for show. So ask yourself this. When was the last time you looked inward and asked, what am I truly protecting? Because until you can answer that without lies, you'll keep playing by habit, not by purpose. And players on autopilot always lose. The ones who win aren't those who rush the farthest, but those who refuse to give up what truly matters. So, do you know what you'll never surrender? Because if you don't, every temptation will look like a blessing. Every voice will seem wise. Every loss will feel permanent. And they're not. Failure doesn't define you. What defines you is what you guard, even when everything else is up for grabs. Guard your mental space, your emotional truth, your values, your mission. That's not selfishness. That's strategy. That's mastery. That's real power. The king who lasts isn't the most aggressive or the most praised. He's the one who's most aware. The one who doesn't abandon the vital for the urgent. The one who doesn't exchange serenity for recognition. The one who isn't hunting applause because he knows his worth without being seen. And here's the hard truth. If you don't shield your king, no one else will. You're the core. And if you fall, it won't matter what other pieces stand. The game ends right there. So begin now, not with drastic changes. Not with loud gestures. Start with something small. Acknowledge yourself. See yourself. Ask yourself honestly, what am I ignoring that I should be fiercely protecting? Because once you know, you'll stop acting on impulse and start moving with purpose. And in that moment, even a single step will mean more than 1,000 empty moves. Real triumph isn't about crushing the game. It's about staying whole through it. And do you want to know the common mistake made by those who lose this without realizing it? They think defending what matters means isolation. That guarding their inner world is weakness. That self-awareness is a shield, when in truth, it's a weapon. Let me tell you something few dare say. Self-awareness doesn't weaken you. It makes you powerful. Because when you know what you won't lose, when you know exactly who you are and what lines you'll never cross, you become unreadable to a world addicted to manipulating the lost. Look around you. Look closely. Most people act from fear. From lack? From that relentless belief that something's missing? And what does that do? It makes them easy to control. Touch their ego and they collapse. Deny them approval and they beg. Offer them validation and they hand over their soul. But there's one kind of person you can't toy with. The one who's done the inner work. The one who's met their own shadow and made peace with it. You can't manipulate that kind of person. You can't seduce them with praise or scare them with silence. Because they've already seen all of that. Inside, and they no longer need to belong because they already belong to themselves. And that leads to the new question. The brutal difference between the one who craves power and the one who craves clarity. The first is a prisoner to their hunger. The second is free in their vision. Think about it. Everyone's power, financial power, social power, power over others. But real power doesn't come from control. It doesn't accumulate. It's not loud. It's not obvious. Real power is internal. And the wild part, it's silent. It doesn't ask for attention. It's the power to face your life and say, this is who I am. This is what I'm worth, and this I will never compromise. It's a kind of power that doesn't need a stage, because your actions declare it for you. So where does this power come from? Clarity. And clarity isn't handed to you. It's not inherited. It's carved. It's earned. It's fought for. Because having clarity isn't about knowing what you want when all is calm. It's about holding that knowing when everything's collapsing. It's about standing in the middle of the storm and saying, this doesn't change me. It's about watching the crowd panic and you remaining still, not because you're passive, but because you already know your place and where you're headed. And that terrifies those who are still lost. Clarity is a weapon, one that makes people uncomfortable. Because in a world full of noise, the one who moves with purpose is a threat. A reminder that yes, it's possible to live with meaning, to live with focus, to live for something real. But no one tells you this. Why? Because if you knew, you'd stop being easy to manipulate. You'd stop buying distractions. You'd stop grinding for things that steal your soul. You'd stop settling. And that's the reason society rewards the obedient and fears the clear-minded. The obedient become pawns, but the lucid, they're kings. And now we return to the board. The king without clarity is just a pawn in disguise. He believes he leads, but moves on instinct. He panics when a rook falls, despairs when the queen's lost. Because his power wasn't rooted, it was borrowed. But the king with clarity, he can be the last one standing, surrounded by silence, enemies at every corner. And still he plays with purpose. And here's something to remember. Clarity is not arrogance. It's not thinking you know everything. It's having the humility to admit what you don't, and the wisdom not to act from that blind spot. It's knowing when to speak, when to observe, when to hold, and when to let go. Self-knowledge isn't just about strength. It's about seeing your wounds, your patterns, your obsessions. Because if you don't, someone else will, and they'll use them against you. But if you see them, if you heal them, if you work on them, then they lose their grip. Then you no longer react, you choose, and that changes the entire game. Because in life, there are only two types of people. Those who react and those who decide. Those who let the board dictate their fate and those who claim their next move. And only one of those types is truly in charge, not of others, but of themselves. Here's a truth that burns. If you don't choose your life, someone else will choose it for you. Not always with bad intentions, just because there's a vacuum, an empty space. It always gets filled. If you don't fill your life with purpose, the world will fill it with noise, pressure, distractions, and demands. And you, without realizing, will start living someone else's life. A life that looks right, but feels wrong. And tell me, what's the point of winning a game you didn't even design? That's not triumph. That's polished captivity. It's success that tastes like loss. And the tragedy, you don't notice until it's too late. Until you stare at your reflection one day and can't recognize the person you've become. That instant, that feeling, that's the real checkmate. Because there's no move left once you've lost yourself. And that's where balance enters, the missing key to true internal leadership. Because it's not enough to know who you are. You have to care for who you are. And no, I'm not talking about spa days or breaks from work. I'm talking about fiercely protecting your center. About feeding your mind, guarding your values, silencing what poisons you. Curating what enters your mental space. Because your mind is soil. And whatever you plant in it grows. So ask yourself, what are you planting? Clarity or chaos? If your days are filled with content that drains you, voices that scare you, comparisons that distort you, What do you expect to bloom inside? Peace? Never. Purpose? Even less. And then the decay begins. First invisibly, then everywhere. Until the board still looks shiny on the outside, but, deep down you've already lost. And that, right there, is the saddest loss. Because while the outside can be fixed, once the king falls on the inside, everything else is just set dressing. That's why I repeat, protect your mind, your clarity, your emotional balance, your mission, not because you're fragile, but because you are the core. And if you fall, nothing else matters. Still not convinced? Ask yourself one final question. How many decisions in your life were born from fear, and how many from clarity? That answer will tell you everything. Whether you're playing the game or just moving. And if you've made it this far, if you've felt every word hit like a quiet echo, it's not by accident. It means something inside you whispered, "This is for me." That's your awareness, your real self pushing to awaken. You're at that critical fork. The edge where you either continue on autopilot or finally take hold of the board. But wait, don't leave yet, because the most vital part comes now. Have you ever felt like you're advancing, but are going nowhere? Like every achievement means less? Like each win is a bandage on a deeper emptiness? That's not failure. That's disconnection. Because when you don't know what you're defending, nothing truly matters. And that slowly kills you. The soul doesn't break in one blow. It withers day by day. By living without aim, by forgetting what matters, by always chasing what's urgent and ignoring what's essential. And here's the ironic twist. Deep down, you already know what to do. You've felt it. You've glimpsed it. But the moment you act on it, it becomes real. And that's what scares you. Because once you taste truth, you can't go back. And that's true freedom. A terrifying, beautiful freedom. The kind only found by those who look within and say, "This is me, and I will not abandon myself." So here it is, the last question. The one that can't be avoided. Are you going to keep moving blindly? Or are you ready to start playing for real? Because this isn't about hype. It's not about music swelling or some grand speech. It's about standing before your own reflection and deciding to stay rooted. It's about building your core, layer by layer, belief by belief. It's about saying no to things that sound good but steal your soul. It's about walking with purpose while the world runs in circles. And once you truly grasp this, the board won't scare you anymore. Because now you're not playing for approval. You're not reacting out of fear. You're not sacrificing your king to please a pawn. You're moving with intention. And that makes you untouchable, uncheckable, unstoppable. So don't say you can't. Don't say it's too late. What you need isn't time, it's a choice. Make just one today, one small decision to protect your core. Even if no one sees it, even if it seems tiny. Because in truth, you're defending everything. And before you go, I want you to do something. Go to the comments and write this. My king doesn't give up. Let that be your declaration, your way of saying, I get it. I'm ready to play for real. And if even one part of this message hit you like a whisper you couldn't ignore, subscribe. If one sentence made you pause and say, this is what I needed, then stay. Because this channel isn't here to distract you. It's here to wake you up. And know this, everything changes from here, because now you don't move just to move. You move with meaning. And that, more than anything else, separates you from the rest. So do it, subscribe, drop that phrase in the comments. And get ready, because what's coming isn't a game. What's coming is life, lived by someone who finally remembered who the true king is. See you in the next video. Or maybe we'll meet again, in the silence between one move and the next.